The story of Daphne and Apollo. Apollo is the Greek god, one of the 12 Olympians, the Greek god of sunlight, the orchestrator of the muses, and the god of music. So he was boasting. He's the golden archer, right? He's associated with the sun and his bow and arrow. And he was talking and talking and talking about how he is the best archer in the world, how nobody can beat him, how he is top notch, supreme, the cream of the cream, the cream of the crop, whatever Randy Savage says. And he was going on and on about how great he is, right? So one day, Aphrodite, the the mother of Cupid or Eros, she was listening to him. She got sick and tired of hearing him boast and brag and talk all this, hot air up his own self. So she got mad and told her son Cupid, she's like, let's prove him a lesson. Let's prove him a lesson into what it means to not be the way that you are. And this story goes into the whole idea of, humility, being humble, not bragging as much as you can, because there's always going to be somebody out there that's going to, have a different twist on the same thing that you think you're the best at. And so Cupid agrees. Cupid pulls his string, bow and arrow, and he has two of them. One of them is full of lead, one of them is full of his regular love, metal. He shoots the metal one, full of love, into the heart of Apollo, hits him right in the chest. He pulls the other one, grabs it, shoots it down at this girl, her name is Daphne, down in the real world. And she gets the one that's full of lead. Now Daphne, according to the story of Ovid, she technically wasn't the prettiest, right? She wasn't the type of girl that gods would be like, wow, let me go and stop everything I'm doing today and go down to the world and do ravenous things to this woman. But Cupid wanted to prove a point. He wanted Apollo to realize that things in life aren't always as they seem. So he shot Daphne in the heart with the arrow. The arrow was full of lead, so it was a repellent arrow. And as soon as the arrow hit both of the targets, Apollo instantly fell in love. He looked down and he saw Daphne and he was like, wow, this woman is beautiful. I want her so bad. I can't control myself. So as everyone watched, he went down to the world, found Daphne and confessed his love to her. He told her, I need to be with you. You're everything I've ever wanted. I can't stop thinking about you, and I know that these feelings are genuine, and let's go make millions of babies. And she, first of all, she knows about how the Greek gods would treat the women in the forest and the women in town, and they would be disrespectful to them. And two, she had the letter arrow in her heart, and she said, no, there's no way I'm gonna go with you. There's no way you're even gonna get near me. And so she rejected him, something that Apollo wasn't used to. He's used to getting everything his way. He's used to being a god and having things go perfectly. So she runs away from him as far as she can, and she keeps screaming and hollering and screaming like she's being murdered. And Apollo just can't fathom what's going on, so he chases her. He still needs to be with her. He is absolutely obsessed. He wants the target, and if the target can't be his, he's gonna drive himself mad too. But she's feeling the exact opposite. She feels that if she gets captured by this man, she's gonna live her whole life just being, a slave to this guy who thinks that she's a piece of property. So they're both running for what they think is their life. And eventually, he's trying to coerce her. She's not going, and she calls out a prayer. She says, "Please, I'd rather be anything else than to be a woman of Apollo. Change me, gods, do something. I don't want to be in this presence anymore." And so as she's running, her arms and her limbs and her legs and her skin starts turning rough and scaly, and soon you see bark growing out of her arms, and they sprout through her fingers, and her legs start planting down into the floor, and she starts becoming a tree. And she grows and she grows and she grows, and she feels happy. She's thankful. She thanks the gods, and as it's eating her head and as the bark is climbing up her, she's happy that she's gonna live this life forever now. And Apollo catches up to her after she fully transformed, and he can't bear the sight of losing her. He's still in love with her. He tells her, even in this tree form, I'm gonna love you till the day that I die. He said, and I'm gonna make sure everyone else in the world loves you too, the way that I feel about you. He tells her, she turns into a laurel tree. So he grabs her leaves and he turns them into the Greek symbol and the Roman symbol of victory that you see, the laurel wreath. and he has it and he puts it on his head, and he tells people that from now on this is going to be the crown that people wear for celebrations to represent something beautiful that happened. Something he wanted to turn this ugly tragedy of what would have been into something that's beautiful. So this is all in the book of Metamorphosis too. So there's an underlying theme of people changing, not only physically, but spiritually as well, and mentally. So he realized that he can't have what he wanted. He realized that, even though he was saying he's the best archer in the world and he could have anything he wants, he still falls victim to everything else that, humans do. And gods are not immune to the feelings that of want and pleasure and lust and seeking and failure and regret and doubt. And it's a story that I remember reading in Metamorphosis, and it always stuck with me. I always thought that that was such a great way for him to realize that he needs to humble himself down. He stopped, chasing her, and he realized that she would rather be a non-moving tree. Or I guess they move when the wind blows, but she'd rather stay there her entire life and to be with him, and that hurt his spirit. But he didn't let him break him. He let it teach him a lesson, and he just adapted to it and improvised and overcame it. But it's a tragedy. She lived her life like that just because one god was boasting, two gods got upset, and so they had to prove him a point. Nothing in Greek or Roman mythology ends up being beautiful, but we could learn these lessons from it. We could see the beauty behind being humble and bringing ourselves down to this status of human, the status of a non-perfect, non-god figure. The only thing that's perfect is a statue, and even those crack. So I thought that was a good story. Let me know if you guys like it. It's from the Metamorphosis. Take care.